open session. Welcome everyone to the Amery Board of Education regular meeting. We will start the matter out tonight with a spotlight on education, the military care packages presented by the FCCLA.
Hey, Emily, pull the screen down too. Yeah, thanks. Or not. We're up, I guess.
Is it mechanic?
Well, thank you for inviting us. They have put together the speech, but I do want to introduce them before we start. So Bailey Johnson is our FCCLA president. Sophie Whitley is our vice president. And then our community service coordinator is Brianna Burstead. And then Serafina Johnson is our coordinator. She does a whole bunch of stuff, actually, but our membership coordinator primarily.
We are representatives from Amery High School's FCCLA, which stands for Family Community Career Leaders of America. Our chapter is one of the largest in the state. Last year, we had 70 members. This year, we have people joining every week. However, we wouldn't be as successful as we are without our great advisor, Mrs. Larson. Mrs. Larson is a wonderful leader and influence in our school and community. She was recognized as a master advisor at the FCCLA National Leadership Conference this past June. Also, she was named VFW Teacher of the Year. One of FCCLA's strongest assets is community service, and tonight we are highlighting one event that we do annually, the military care packages.
The process of putting together the packages is a huge time commitment. In the process of figuring out what to buy, we looked at online prices and compared in-store prices. We purchased a lot of snack goods online from Girl Scouts, Dick's Market, and Dollar Tree. We like to try and personalize the packages and by buying foods and trinkets that we know a person likes.
Last year, the casino donated playing cards, which we included in the packages as well. We also put in handwritten notes and cards given by the elementary and intermediate school students. A few high schoolers also wrote personal letters for friends and or family members. After organizing and packing, we received addresses, wrote them, and shipped them off.
Creating the military care packages is a community project, not just FCCLA students. The letters and crafts we send in them are made in Clubhouse, Helping Hands at the intermediate school, and additional elementary students. We also have received generous donations from the community. This year, we've received donations from the VFW for $500, the VFW Auxiliary for $500, and the American Legion for $250. We also would like to thank groups who have donated in the past, such as Amery Chevrolet, Dick's Fresh Market, and Chet's Johnson's. The military care packages are a huge success of our chapter. We have sent 302 care packages in the past 9 years. Elena Rivard and Larissa Johnson qualified for nationals in California this past year for showcasing this endeavor. Also, Benjamin Grimsby, AHS graduate of 2016, recently returned from a 9-month deployment in Afghanistan. While deployed, Grimsby and his platoon received a number of care packages from Amery FCCLA. Benjamin visited us on September 11th to deliver a framed flag and a memorial plaque stating, "This American flag was proudly flown from April 3rd, 2019 to May 19th, 2019 over the 42nd CP in Kandahar, Afghanistan, to thank Amery School District for their support."
We definitely don't do this for the thank yous, but it's nice to hear back so we can personalize each package and make it special. Mrs. Larson and our chapter have received many thank you letters in response to packages. There are examples in your binders. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak about our wonderful chapter and advisor tonight.
I'm not sure if you have questions.
Do you have questions?
Great job, you guys. It's a good project.
Nice work.
Okay, next on the agenda are the consent agenda items, and I had the board vouchers this month, so I will make a motion to approve the vouchers. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the board vouchers are approved. Next on the list is our community comments. Is there anyone signed up for community comments? All right, then on to administrative reports.
Okay, well, I'll start off real quick, briefly mentioning the school perceptions, school climate survey. The window for that survey is closed. As of this past Friday, we have results, but they just came in on Friday, so we don't have anything to report tonight. In December, at the board meeting, we'll have Sue Peterson from School Perceptions technologically zero herself in here to our board meeting via the computer, and we'll have her go through the results with us. So that'll be in December. Josh.
Okay, well, as of today, we have all of our winter sports teams are officially in action. Some have been going for as long as 2 weeks, but today was the last day for the last batch of sports teams to start their practice, and we have a girls' basketball scrimmage that's going on at the middle school right now. So first home match of the year will be Thursday night. Our girls' basketball team hosts Rice Lake. In addition to that, we recently had the school musical with Fiddler on the Roof, and for those of you that went there, it was an absolutely fabulous, fabulous performance. Still singing the songs around the school when the kids walked by, so had a huge impact on a lot of people. Very successful Veterans Day program at the high school as always, and the FCCLA was a huge part of that as well with their breakfast for our veterans. Really nice thing, so thank you to Mrs. Larson, the FCCLA, for that. We also had our fall band concert last Tuesday night, so it's been a busy week at Amery High School, and the kids did a great job there, and we had a nice fundraiser for our band that night as well. Upcoming events. Tomorrow night we've got National Honor Society member induction at the high school at 6 o'clock. November 26th, we have our practice ACT test for juniors. It's just a good opportunity for them to do a practice run through the ACT. We do it as a data collection process to find out areas we need to work on to get them more prepared for the actual ACT in March. We have our high school choir holiday concert on Sunday, December 8th. And on Monday, December 9th, we have our high school academic and career planning presentation called the iGen, the Internet Generation. So we're inviting area businesses to come in and meet with us from an individual who specializes in helping to understand the Internet generation, the kids that we're raising right now, and how maybe different way of life than some of us in this room went through 10, 15, 20, and 30 years ago. So I'll yield the rest of my time to Mr. Benson.
Nice. We're kicking off some bully-proofing curriculum in the middle school. We have been working a lot with Second Step this year, which is new to the middle school. That's a social-emotional program, which we'll hear a lot about in a few minutes. But the bully-proofing curriculum and some of those pieces are being put into play by the teams. This Friday is Human Growth and Development Day. We call it Doctor Day, and Dr. Strodoff and Dr. Williamson will be in visiting and speaking to our kids. We break the kids into boys and girls, and it's an optional parental approved presentation. You have to have parental approval to come to it. And the big topic is how to avoid teen pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. So that's always a student favorite. We just kicked off a middle school food drive, and we're excited for that, and that starts November 18th through December 12th at the middle school. Got a lot of kids involved in that, and we'll kind of bring our food down to the Amery food shelf at the end of that. And then we completed our required lockdown drill on Friday, November 8th, and with a follow-up on Thursday, November 14th, and we're just required to make sure that the board is aware that that drill at the middle school was just completed the last 2 weeks. That involved the Amery Police Department assisting us with the drill, and we reviewed ahead of time our lockdown procedures and notified parents and community, and then, of course, practiced the complete lockdown portion of the drill, and then discussed the ALICE options. And ALICE is that training where we discuss if there ever was a real dangerous situation, how to protect ourselves, how to defend ourselves, how to barricade ourselves if needed, and if we needed to escape, how we leave the building, where our evacuation procedures are, and where our relocation areas are. And so all of that was reviewed with our kids. And, that's always kind of a difficult thing to talk about with kids, but something that, first of all, we're required to do, and we make sure that we tell all the kids that our whole purpose is to keep them safe and to make sure that they understand we have a plan. Michelle.
Okay, I have 3 items, and the first one is Dramarama was here on November 9th. Amery hosted. That includes kids from 3rd through 8th grade, and very successful day. And April actually just said all the results are in the Amery Free Press. So we did very well. Amery teams earned solos, 4 blue ribbon ratings, 7 red ribbon ratings, and 4 Actor of Merit awards. So very fun day. Also on Friday night, big shout out to Erin and her IPO for helping us run our 16th annual hoedown, and it was very, very successful. We ran out of tickets, and I had to quick go try to find some more tickets, so that was a pretty exciting event to run out of tickets in the first hour. And then coming up, we are having our annual food drive. Will be the second week in December, the 9th through the 13th, and we once again help stock the shelves at the food shelf local. Thank you.
All right, the world of pupil service is always full of different sorts of compliance indicators. So I've got two of them for you tonight. One is indicator 7. We just got a recent update showing that we've reported accurately all our progress in terms of children who have been identified as students with special ed services aged 3 through 5, and we need to track their entry, their progress of where they are on entry into our school district with their special ed services, and then our exit, when they exit or become 5 years old. We also need to track those indicators to see that they have made growth during that time and that the services that we've delivered have been effective for them. So we're up to date with that. We currently have another 15 early child outcomes indicators, students that are actually on our rolls right now. So that's just another example of the ongoing process that our early childhood teacher helps to monitor and our related service providers help to complete. Add 7 to indicator 7, you get up to indicator 14, which is on the other side of the spectrum of age. Developmentally, those are our post-high school outcomes for students with disabilities. Each year, the district has an opportunity to participate in surveys where parents of children with disabilities who have graduated or moved on have the opportunity to give us information, or the students themselves give us information on how they're actually doing out in the quote-unquote real world, and whether they have a job, whether they are doing some sort of post-secondary training. And I'm happy to report that we have, out of about 12 students, we had 6 successful surveys completed, 3 actually meeting the requirements for an incentive funding grant. So with those 3 completed surveys of students who were gainfully employed or in a post-secondary education and training, we've received $3,246.15 from the state, and that's an incentive grant that goes to the general fund. So always a good thing, and just want to appreciate and support those teachers that help out deliver those surveys, Jen Helbig, Dana Prindle, Amanda Rawling, and Chuck Wellman, who do a lot to support those kids, and especially Chuck's employability skills class. That's a big one for a lot of these kids that get out. They do build some skills in that class, and oftentimes they're able to transfer that into the real world. Finally, over the last week, there was the State Superintendent Special Education Conference. I was glad to attend that. It's always tough to be out of the building during really any time of year, this time of year. I do want to thank the board for their sponsorship of professional development. As a pupil services director and a central office administrator, you don't always have the networking opportunity to see and connect with fellow administrators, and along with the great training that DPI gives at the Superintendent's Conference, at the Leadership Conference, it's also just good to hear about the issues in your school district and see that those issues are not just the Amery school districts alone, but that other districts are both, meeting challenges, developing innovative programs, and sometimes those are really special times to be able to generate some new ideas for programming and problem solving. So thank you for that opportunity.
Good. All right, thank you for those reports. The next item up on the agenda is the strategic plan update for the community and family collaboration presented by Mrs. Hendrickson and Mr. Benson.
Okay. So Tracy and I are here to talk to you a little bit about our strategic plan. And for those of you in the community that maybe aren't quite aware of what the strategic plan is, about 3 years ago, our district worked together to draw a mission and set strategic goals for the district. Those teams included all the school staff, whether they were small groups during the days, work days and in-service days where we set goals, but then also community work after school, include school board, a lot of parents, business leaders, even students. And as we work together, we set 5 main strategies, and those were based on student achievement and technology, community and family collaboration, finance, student engagement, and then staff and personnel. And so Tracy and I then chaired one of those groups, and we chaired the community and family collaboration team. And we have 3 main action steps to our area, and then in each one of those has objectives. And a lot of the objectives we have completed, even some of them years ago, and some we're still ongoing, and some are newly being developed right now. So we're really going to just touch base on the ones that are real current. So I'll turn it over to Tracy for the first step.
Okay, so for the first action plan, where we analyze parent outreach, communication, and engagement, I'm just going to talk about 2 of those. So the second one is about analyzing our current communication and levels of engagement, and we actually have done that in a couple different ways. But the most current, and we're still looking at, just today we received, Dr. Derfler talked about the school climate survey. We received the results of that, and we had a significant section on there about communication, everything from our staff answering how their administrators communicate with them, how the different departments within the school communicate, and then we also made sure we gave staff an opportunity to answer, do you visit the district website? Do you use the district app? Do you read the Amery Free Press? Do you follow the school on social media, to try to get a good feel for where everyone's getting their communication and how well it's being utilized? So just received the results today. I've gone through it a little bit, but our next step will be to go through and kind of analyze those things and see where we are with our staff communication and engagement. And then the other part of the first action plan, it says to conduct a series of focus groups to help identify current district communication strengths, weaknesses, and needs. And in February of 2020, we do have a plan where our staff will go through a part of an in-service day of focus groups, and a piece of that will be talking about our communication strengths, weaknesses, and hopefully the school climate survey results will help guide us in how we approach our focus groups on that day.
Our second action plan really dealt with building and maintaining relationships with district stakeholders. And earlier, actually last month, we came in and talked about enhancing and improving the Like a Warrior campaigning moving forward. So the Like a Warrior campaign came from this initiative or this strategic plan. I want to talk about the second one, working with stakeholders to develop a community involvement fair. So twice a year we hold a youth rec fair where all the different clubs and organizations, from scouts to booster sports to different organizations, can come and promote their programs to kids. We also recently held kind of like an a youth rec fair for adults, and it was an all-club picnic, and I want to give credit to Cheryl Meyer, who helped really organize that when she was community club president. But the all-club picnic had 14 of the local organizations, from the Amery Community Club to the AEDC to the Lions Club, the Rotary, Snowmobile Club, Stour Trail Group. All of them met and planned an evening and a picnic. And basically the purpose was to try explaining what we do. And you would be surprised. Even like I'm on the AEDC, there's a lot of industries that have no idea what some industry, a neighbor is doing, and they could cooperate and co-op more with projects. And so that was another initiative that we really worked hard trying to help move forward. Another one down there, I think it talks about conducting staff tours of local industries and manufacturing. We always feel it's really important to get our kids out to see what are some of these factory buildings around us, the industries. They know a lot of what the retailers do, but they don't always understand what the manufacturers are doing in town. And we do have like a lot of the tech ed programs or the FACE programs or the CTE programs are going out with kids to see it, but we also want staff to see it. So I know last year on their ACP night, their academic and career planning night, I know the high school last year toured Cardinal Glass, SMC, and the hospital. And this year, they're going to be bringing the businesses to the school for that iGen presentation that Josh had already just mentioned. Then another one that we wanted to highlight a little bit was expanding the high school community service day. And you see that, I think that's the bottom one. And, basically, when we wrote the strategic plan 3 years ago, there was a lot of talk about that high school community service day is really cool and it's kind of fun. Maybe we should do it a whole district. And that was kind of got into the plan. And then the feasibility of having all the high school kids out there and doing these projects, and they want to get out and work, and then having kindergartners running around, and maybe it wasn't feasible to have all of us do it on one day. But I gave you a handout, and it just to highlight all the different things that happened just last year in all 4 buildings, and it shows 37 different community service activities between the 4 buildings to promote community service, to do things. You just saw one today from the Family Consumer Ed group that's doing the gift packages. So it's whether there's gift packages for the troops or cards for our VFW, could be food drives that I just mentioned, clothing drives, raising money for the Red Kettles, the Angel Fund, or various charities. Could be visiting nursing homes. We have groups going on all the time with games, telling stories, playing music for them, to the community cleanup and those types of programs. But we're very, very busy to make sure that our kids understand the importance of giving back. And so, like I said, there was, I think, 37 that we had recorded last year, and that isn't any different than what we've done most years. So we kind of felt that we've met that goal or continuing to meet that goal with that. The third one, the third slide talks about partnering with local businesses then in industry to positively impact our local economy. And first of all, I really want to thank the district, too, for giving us a lot of flexibility. There isn't an organization in town that isn't touched with school staff. I know currently Cheryl's serving as the president of the Amery Community Club, and I'm currently serving as the president of Amery's Economic Development Corporation. So we have a lot of people on our fingers and a lot of things. And we realize that what's good for industry and what's good for employers and what's good for our community only helps our schools. As our community thrives, the school thrives, and vice versa. And so we're pretty excited about all the different work that we have going on. But when we break this down now into the first one, which is increased student internships and youth apprenticeship programs, I talked to Ramona Lockwood today, and currently we have 72 students at the high school serving on a youth apprenticeship. And that, just to put that in perspective, it's considerably more. Mr. Durfee, you maybe have the numbers, but it was considerably more than the other schools in our area.
Right offhand, but significantly.
Yeah. There was at one point we had more than all the other schools in the Middle Border combined. So kids out there being involved. And so you look at Wisconsin Credit Union having a bank right in our school where kids can work, or the kids out serving at the banks, working with manufacturing, working with IT, working with ag, working with health services. We even have one student right now doing a plumbing apprenticeship through the school. So when they leave, they'll go on and work towards that license. And then 426 of our 479 high school students last year took at least one career and technical ed class, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then, of course, the other portion of really visible portion would be our Cte Academies, and we have them in 4 areas: FACE and business and ag, and the construction academy and the housing projects. You see that, and you see the real positive impact that's not only having for Amery, it's putting houses up, and houses are collecting now tax dollars for the community, and we're providing housing for people and trade skills for kids. It's wonderful. So, Tracy?
I just have one last thing that we'll touch on before we're done. And this isn't our project, but the school will play a significant role. You may have heard, or hopefully you've heard about the Design Amery/Design Wisconsin process that will be happening in April in Amery, and it's just defined as an opportunity for our community to identify and visualize the short, medium, and long-range vision for our future. So it's really a community and a city project where we will be working with a group from UW Extension. Will be coming to Amery and leading us through what's called a charrette, and it's actually a 2 to 3 day process where as a city, as a full community, including school, we will have an opportunity to really brainstorm and kind of decide where we want to go from here. What are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what do we want, and how to build and become a stronger, better community city. Anyway, the school is playing a significant role in that, as we will play a significant role that weekend, but I also have gathered some students. We have 6 high school students who are prepared, who will be doing some things throughout the school year as part of that final charrette process. We'll be working with elementary students, and then just hopefully a lot of people, staff within our school community, play a significant role in that Design Amery weekend.
So that's just 1/5 of the strategic plan, the community that we represent, in the 3 goals that we have. Do you have any questions for our committee or our group?
Has the Design Amery thing, I mean, have we been chosen? The last I heard was kind of like we were writing letters hoping to get chosen.
We've been pretty much, I guess it's not official yet, but they've pretty much said, no, we feel pretty good about Amery and what we're hearing and what you're doing, and we have a date and we think it's going to happen. So keep your eyes and ears open because you'll be hearing more from them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're on to informational items. The first informational item is ending nicotine addiction at the Amery High School.
Way down there. All right, hi, I'm Levi Lombardo. I'm Lana Bells. I'm a senior at Amery High School. And I'm a sophomore. Okay. So, essentially what we have here is a nicotine cessation project because of the growing nicotine epidemic that we've started to see. And what we are attempting to achieve at this time is to help students find an actual resource that they can use, something that they're comfortable with within the school, to receive the help that they need in order to end their addiction and to do it successfully. Why this is necessary was because in the spring survey in 2019, we discovered that over 58% of Amery High School students admitted to using nicotine products, and now taking these numbers into account, that was last spring, and that is only of those who took the survey and took it honestly. So these numbers are not even accurate. They could possibly be much higher than what we know. As many people know now, there's a severe risk to teens when using these products, and the use of these has been led to hospitalization and has been the cause of now 42 deaths in the United States. That number changes so frequently that we didn't even have time to update it on the slide before presenting. It's quite shocking. So what we did was we saw the need for a space for students to receive help without the fear of being suspended from sports, from schools, from trouble from parents, etc. And being students ourselves, we saw that those were things that we would be afraid of if coming forward with an addiction, that those would be the consequences besides just having the addiction to start with. So we made this program where students are able to confide in Amery High School staff members and get access to quit products and a rehabilitation program in order to make that a possibility. So, oh shoot, wrong thing. I want this one. We have a copy of the folder that the Safe Staff Mentors get. Two of our mentors are actually here. We have Mr. Gould and Mr. Fern are two of our people, so that students know you can go to anyone and receive the help that you need. You can go to the principal, or you can go to the vice principal, and you can still get the help that you need without facing these consequences. So these are our approved Safe Staff Mentors, and what they have done is they have signed a contract. If I can.
It was just there.
There's so much stuff.
Oh, no. Okay, it's in here.
They've each signed a contract that states that they will not refer students to police citation or refer them to their parents as long as they are following through with the rehabilitation program. So this does not violate that you can't be using these products in school and being like, oh, I can get away with that because I have talked to someone, they've signed on confidentiality. No, it's just a referral amnesty. So, this is what the form looks like. I know you won't be able to read that from here, but the staff member signs it and it says, I blank consent to be a confidential support system for Amery High School students who may come to me when struggling with a nicotine addiction. I promise to do all in my power to aid in the rehabilitation of willing students who admit that they have a problem. For students I find I am not the best resource for, I will recommend them to another party so as long as the student is willing. For situations I deem a student's life is at an emergent risk, I will break confidentiality to seek them medical attention as this is the law. Alright, so next. To make this accessible to students, we created a website. And if you would follow the link, please. So this is how students find out how to get into the program and how they can match up with a mentor and how they do get started. So under our About tab, you can find simply just what we are about, why we're doing this, who we are, why it's necessary. You find the statistics from our specific school as well as the CDC website that lists the 42 deaths, and that is growing. Under the this lovely scroll here, it has a text line provided by thetruth.com that helps students if they want to use that as a resource instead of going to our staff members, they can. The only possible reason that students might not want to is because it shows up on like text messaging plans that you've contacted this number, and that might be something that they're at risk of having their parents knowing about their addiction, which can sometimes be a really dangerous situation for people. So we provide this as a way for them to get personal help. So under the Get Help tab, there's the text line, a call line provided through Wisconsin specifically, and then we have the steps on how to make your rehabilitation possible. So first, you contact one of our approved mentors who have signed on and are approved by us to be a safe staff person. Then you go to step 2, which is you can email them, and you can copy and paste this exact format and they'll know what you're saying. So I would like to have you as my safe staff mentor. When is a good time to sign my amnesty form? And that takes us to the amnesty form, which states this is what the student will sign. And the only people that will ever see this are the student, the safe staff mentor, and in a specific situation where potentially laws are being broken, this is where that would come up to prove that the student knew what they were getting into and knew that if they are, say, pulled over and caught with e-cigarette products, they can still be fined and ticketed for it. However, if you are using these products and you admit it to, say if I admit to the mentor, Mr. Gould, he's not going to refer me to the police. But if he catches me on campus using these products, that's where that becomes an issue. So the amnesty form says, I blank consent to receiving amnesty from school suspensions, sports suspension, detention, parent notification, and referral for police citation.
so as long as I am actively participating in my rehabilitation. This amnesty does not extend to if I am caught on school grounds using any nicotine product. I cannot be punished for admitting to using these products. However, I cannot abuse this by using e-cigarette products on school grounds. So that's just a referral so everybody's on the same page. So once that form is signed, so you talk to the mentor, you sign the form, and then you begin. So you start a correspondence with them, and they have access to this. Everybody has a copy of this same folder that has a step-by-step guide of how exactly to help somebody through a nicotine addiction. When to start, what the statistics are, when withdrawals are going to peak, what you should do to avoid them, what you should do at high-risk situations, planning ahead for, like, if you use e-cigarette products on your drive to school, what are you going to replace in your hand physically so you're proactively making that change. So it's a step-by-step guide for them to be that person for our students, as well as includes a mock calendar of when somebody should have their date picked when they quit versus when they should be absolutely done. So it shows exactly for the students and the staff members alike what they should be expecting for a student in this program. All right. So we also have a frequently asked questions tab, which shows generally has a lot of more information about why we're doing it, the action steps, where you can get access to the quit products. Because we cannot provide them on school grounds, that makes it more of a on the students' terms to get access to those products, but we direct them to where they can. So we partnered up with Cte Johnson's to provide quit products for students. They can get them over the counter at Chte's, so that means without parent consent. They can be under 18 to do so. And you can, if you are 18 and older, the Polk County Health Department can send them to you for free if you actively want to make that change for yourself. So there is resources, and we do provide them for students that not only want to be in the rehabilitation program, but do need access to quit products. And then we do have a contact page, which generally just questions about the website, about improvements, safe staff suggestions. This is not intended to be where students would contact mentors. We tried to make that clear with talk to the mentors. You don't have to go through us. We do not know who's in the program. We just set it up so that it can be something that people can use and that they will, because they know it's very personal. Okay, and so that's the website. Community involvement, again, Cte Johnson we teamed up with. The Amery Public Library is a huge supporter of us, and as well as the hospital and clinic. We've talked with a respiratory therapist. She is going to be coming into our school to speak soon, and to talk generally about what she's specifically seen in our own hospital and clinic. Because it's important that people know that this isn't, the 42 deaths aren't taking place on the other side of the world in some random county. It's happening here, and it's happening in our county, and it's happening to our students. People are going to the Amery Hospital and Clinic with lung issues and with diseases developing because of this usage. And when we talked to the respiratory therapist, she said specifically that lung issues are becoming apparent in students as early as 3 months into usage of vaping and juuling products. So it's not taking 50 plus years to develop cancer as per like cigarettes. It's taking 3 months and you're having lungs collapsing. That's an epidemic. So, are there any questions at this time that we could clarify off the top of your head?
Do you host this presentation to the entire high school, or, and if so, how often? Do you kind of piggyback on top of the respiratory doctor that's going to come in, or how do you let students know about this?
We have posters up in the school currently that have a QR code that takes you directly to the website. However, we have not presented specifically to the students yet. This is still something that we're more in the developing stages. Like, we wanted to get this known and make this aware that this is something that's happening in the school, and we really needed to make sure that this is something that's going to be okay before we are taking off fully and integrating our first students into the program. So no, at this time we have not presented this presentation to the student body.
But we do also plan on doing lunch and learns, which is where students will be able to go to the library, which is kind of like just a general place where people go at lunch. And they won't have to like say that they have an addiction. They can just like happen to hear in on the information without like coming out about anything. And then they can also use that information to help a friend rather than just helping themselves. And that's where we plan on having our guest speakers, like the lady from the respiratory department at the hospital. So.
Do you think it would be beneficial for this to maybe start a little bit earlier than high school, like 7th grade? Because I think that it's a problem. I guess I would defer to Mr. Benson, but I think it's a problem before high school.
We do hope to help the middle school. We wanted to get it started in the high school just because that's what we're closer to.
Sure.
But we do for sure want to get it started in the middle school because that's where everything starts mainly.
We have, we've done some things in our Warrior Time where we've had some structured presentations with some science-based information that we've gone through in small groups, class size of about 16 or so. Obviously, we've had some talks with Levi and Lana. A lot of the kids that I've talked to on a personal level, even before we had the confidentiality, a lot of them have pretty much said, "Yep, I'm doing this, and my parents know, and you're not going to change my mind." And so, some of our internal conversations really have been, we really need to hammer that awareness at the younger grades, because it's almost like, it's really taken a hold of this group of kids we have right now, and it's pretty difficult to tell them they have to stop right now, try as hard as we do. But the educational piece, at the lower levels, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that this Friday when we have Dr. Day presentation, they can only house half the kids at a time. Well, they have the girls and guys split, and they take half the guys and half the girls. The other half is going to an hour-and-a-half presentation on vaping and the dangers of vaping and cigarettes and drug use. So they're going to get that educational piece, which we have done every year. But and then we also have units of this in our health program, and through Kathy Vincent and Family Consumer Ed covers it. We don't quite have the level of reporting and getting the confidential help yet with middle school kids, but we are certainly working on the educational component.
So yes, absolutely, that is something that we do plan to branch into once we can successfully begin infiltrating this into the high school body.
Do you know if anybody's signed up yet?
Not that we are
Not that we're aware of, because the teachers could have someone, but I don't believe there are anyone yet.
And are the people that are confidants, are they required to report not who they have necessarily, but a number count that they are helping people, and who follows up with making sure that they're staying with their program? Do you know how that works yet? Like, you say that they have to be actively involved in their own kind of recovery, so to speak. Is there a way to track that? Is the person that they confide in, are they responsible for doing that, or?
The teacher mentor is in charge of like keeping them on track, asking them how they've been doing with the progress, and like making sure that they're staying with it. So they're the ones. The teachers are the ones that the students can.
Presented tonight by Debbie Elmer and Lisa Benson.
Good evening. We're going to make our talking portion short because we have a lovely video tonight created by Debbie Christopherson. So a big thank you to you guys. This project got initiated about a year ago. It first started as a mini grant that was given to Trish Myers, an elementary school teacher, and Alex Lilienthal. And so it started out with some ideas about zoning some green spaces on our school grounds and purchasing some furniture and it just kind of snowballed from there through our PBIS committee. And by having a wonderful parent volunteer and her wonderful talents provide support to us and a vision, and and it snowballed from there.
So I'm Debbie Christofferson, my husband Bryce Christofferson here, and just to eliminate some confusion, I'm an artist in the community and I work under my maiden name of Debbie Elmer, so you'll see my name in both versions, but I'm really excited about this project and I'm really excited about what transpired as this whole thing came together, and the volunteers from our community. Over half the volunteers I'd never met before, which I think is really interesting, and a lot of farmers came out to support the project. And since I'm so excited about it, I talk a lot, so I'm going to just let you watch a short video to help make it just be a great overview. This was the original plan submitted by the teachers when they initially came up with the idea of what they may want to have in the green space. So if you exit the back of the elementary school, and then you just look out to the playground and swing back in, there's a natural space created by the addition to the elementary school. The original building, and then the hallway creates a three-walled area. So I came up with a plan, drew up plans to present to the committee. You can see we decided to create a path going back into that area. The tree that had been there had been hit by lightning, so there's research on what would be an ideal shade tree for this area. And we put in the computer to watch how the shade would fall in that area throughout the course of the year. And I'm just a huge fan of the dragonfly gardens in our community. They're one of the top resources in the state for native plants, so I've learned a lot from them. This small tree is like a small weeping willow. The kids are going to love it. It's not appropriate for a playground setting because the aides can't view the kids under it. So we incorporated, that tree's planted now. This is that outdoor chalkboard. I created it in 2 phases. This first phase was this fall. We've already completed, and we worked on a lot of the things from the second phase already that was designated for this spring. These are the kids, they were just loved watching us. And I think this is a really important part of the project. So many donors from the community. I didn't ask for donations. I just called to get materials, and people donated. This is just one group of volunteers. There are days that I had 3 shifts of volunteers, 3 groups to show up. And we shoveled so much trap rock. It's unbelievable. It took so much trap rock. But we have this beautiful path. I mean, this is just the bare bones of the outdoor classroom. We have 5 stations dedicated to it. As you enter, you see just a signage area that says welcome to the, well, it just says outdoor classroom. And then to your right, there is the weeping mulberry tree, and then there was a stage created with the mini grants, I believe, and that had just been sitting on the lawn for 2 years. That's a great way to lose your stage, but we elevated it with posts and we put drainage underneath, and then we're working on this interactive sound sculpture to go underneath it. So we trenched a trench underneath the pathway and put a tube in. So now when the students are doing a presentation on the stage, there's grasses on either side. so the students can hide behind the graphs before it's their turn to come on stage. But also, one of the students could whisper or talk into this funnel, and where the audience sits opposite the path, it'll be like surround sound for them. So it's really cool. And the kids are already talking through the tube, which is really exciting, having a lot of fun. And then we have an outdoor chalkboard. It has real slates on it that still needs some construction to be done on it. And then the main seating area has boulders large enough to seat an entire classroom. Your entire classroom can just sit on boulders, and the teacher can present out there, or they can do projects. The furniture that you saw, that can be moved around the different 5 areas. And there's several areas that we can still add to, and Jeremy Williamson came out and advised there's a water issue with drainage because it's an inside corner, really odd-shaped graded area. We did improve it with grading as much as we could, but Jeremy helped us design a rain garden, which is really exciting. And then one of the farmers, Cool Acres, they donated all the material to fill the rain garden, which is a tremendous amount of material. They shoveled it from their farm, they came to the site, they shoveled it and put it into the rain garden, and then they stayed for another couple hours hauling trap rock, which is not the most fun thing they could do. But they did it, and they did it with a good attitude. And just so many volunteers. It was really exciting to me to see that this was not just something that was important to me, but it was so important to the community. And as one of you already said, if it's important to the community, it's important to the district. And I'm excited how this can be incorporated more in the district, and as spring comes and we actually do plant it, how exciting that's going to be for the kids. So any questions?
Looks great.
Yeah, you're done for the fall. I mean,
We the night before the deep frost, I had a last minute call for anybody who could haul mulch because I was so tired. And we had 5 people show up last minute. We put the outdoor classroom sign up at 7 o'clock that night, and we were done. Called it good till spring. But we didn't expect to get all that trap rock in. It wouldn't be usable in the spring without that trap rock. And it was just, I mean, it doesn't sound like a major thing, but it was tons and tons of trap rock. And it had to be compacted. So now as spring comes and it's wet there, the kids can they are already doing loops around that path that looks like a river, but we'll get plants in there that's going to be minor compared to what we had to do to prep the site. So it'll be usable.
It's too bad that we live in Wisconsin.
But we're designing a winter garden with real structural perennials that will give you seed interest in the winter too. The kids, on a day like what we've had this past week, there's no reason the kids couldn't take a walk out there. It was dry.
Yeah.
And I think they will, as excited as they have been.
If our winter stayed like today, it wouldn't be so bad. It would be bearable.
Well, thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
It looks great. It looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
much.
for all your work doing that.
All right, next on the informational item list is the anti-bullying and character education put on by Pupil Services.
Okay, we have Pupil Services going to present. We're probably going to go one at a time in that there's about 8 to 10 slides per building. And we're going to start off with Lean Elementary and Lisa Benson.
So Debbie mentioned PBIS, and so PBIS is an initiative that's taking place at all of the schools in our district. Positive behavioral interventions and supports. It incorporates teaching expectations, so we're all on the same page. We all have the same definitions of what's expected from our students behavior-wise. We have a schedule where we do some direct teaching of what those skills look like, sound like. We role play different scenarios, when to use those skills. And then we acknowledge our students, so we catch them performing, practicing those skills, whether it's a verbal positive praise, or in the elementary school, we use some tangible rewards, we use some non-tangible rewards that they can earn for exhibiting those behaviors. Discipline data is used monthly to monitor student behavior and make decisions. And so our PBIS team gathers every month. We take a look at the behavior data, and together we analyze. We decide what needs more teaching. We decide what interventions are appropriate. So that is our universal approach. We offer Second Step, and I have 2 different slides on this because we have skills for early learning at the 4K level, and so their curriculum is different from the others. It's an evidence, Second Step Second step is evidence-based, promote success in early learning settings, school readiness, social and life success. Different skills are taught that strengthen their ability to learn. We talk about empathy, managing emotions, identifying feelings, making friends, learning fair ways to play, learning to play in different environments. And the learning skills involve listening, attention, following direction, self-talk, learning to solve problems, and thinking of solutions. And then we have second step in grades K through 3 for our third graders as well at Lean Elementary. And so again, similar curriculum, definitely. The skills are geared towards their age level. And something that we've incorporated this year is a pacing calendar. So all grades are getting the same lesson at the same time. So all of second grade gets the same lesson at the same time during the school year versus, the teacher having the curriculum and just teach it whenever you have time. It's on a schedule and it's on a calendar. Thinking that, the kids learning the language together at the same time and they're all on problem solving or empathy or whatever it is, and they're practicing together at the same time and helping each other. So feeling like that's a good way to do it, a good strategy. The lessons are about 30 minutes, and then there are additional activities that they can reinforce their skills throughout the day. There's a parent component, so we can start sending things home to parents to learn about the program as well. Zones of Regulation is another program that we use to reinforce learning about emotions, learning how to identify their alertness, and it provides strategies to support emotional regulation. Big Deals, Little Deals, another program that promotes problem solving in kids. They learn differences in the size of the problem. Not all problems are big problems. And who handles big problems, who handles little problems, learning that a lot of things that they can have some independence about and they can learn to handle these problems themselves. So that is kind of an empowering program for the kids. And again, learning that common language, common strategies, they're all learning it together. Peacemaking is a way that we handle conflict between 2 or more students in our building. And it's used to settle disagreements. We have them get together face to face, talk about the problem. They learn perspective taking, and they work towards a solution that is fair for both sides. So you're talking a win-win solution, not a win-lose, what will work for both parties. It's intentional, it promotes peace, it restores relationships. So again, based on values of respect, fairness, and cooperation. We have just implemented the use of a stop and think room in our school. And again, it goes along with those restorative practices and making things better. It has provided structure and predictability in our building. Kind of the process that is used is when a student comes in, it's an opportunity for them to calm down first, and then it's an opportunity for them to reflect. So we have an adult in there staffed all day long so they can reflect on what happened, what is the problem, identify it, what needs to be different. And then there's some instructions. So maybe it's a skill that needs to be reinforced or practiced. And then there's the restorative component. So they fix or repair, make a plan to fix or repair the harm that was done, either with a person or maybe something that was damaged. But it's an opportunity to fix it, which helps them in the long run, helps them maybe make an investment in another relationship or in the building, and seems to go further, a lot further than a punishment type of response. And protective behaviors is something that is mandated by our state, and so those are lessons taught through the guidance department. So kids learn personal safety, assertiveness, learn how to recognize difficult situations and how to handle those. Learning ways to say no, walk away, and to get help. Another initiative that came about this year is the Kindness Club in second grade. And this has really taken off. Our second grade classrooms and teachers are making a special effort to teach kindness and to practice kindness. And so they're coming up with different projects to do throughout the year. They are also including the rest of our building as well, inviting other grade levels to participate, the entire building to participate. They recently did a sock drive, which got an enormous response. And so those donations will be given to those in need in our community. They're also working on the military packages. So, student support groups are offered through the guidance department. They are available to all kids. And so emotion management, friendship, social thinking. So again, it offers another layer of support for kids, more instruction, more practice, designed to help kids in these different areas. Teaching expected and unexpected behaviors, again, more problem solving. And then PBIS, Tier 2. So PBIS Tier 1 is universal, so everybody gets it. PBIS Tier 2 adds another layer of support for kids maybe who were not as successful with Tier 1, need another layer of support, more instruction, more practice, more reinforcement or feedback. And so this is just something else that we offer. Check in, check out provides just a check-in with an adult at the beginning and the end of the day. Lots of different feedback times during the day. There are incentives, there are acknowledgments that go along with that. And the SAY groups, the social academic instruction group, just another type of support group, an instructional group for social emotional skills. So that is elementary school. Any questions on that?
So like the SAIG group, is that something that they're meeting with other students, or is that something that's just you're part of that group and that means you have?
Right. So that is run by one of our guidance counselors. So, actually, Becca Radel is our intervention student success coordinator. And so whoever participates in that group, it's kind of determined by data, so behavior data. Okay. Yeah.
And so, but is it a meeting with other kids, or is it more
one-on-one? It's a small group, so I would say with two or three other students. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the reflection room.
Yeah.
That you said that's staffed by an adult all day long, and so is that a para or is that another?
It is a para.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do they have like a script, or do they attend training on how to help those kids process through what has happened? Or?
So a lot of thought went into the program before even hiring someone. And so, yeah, we visited other school districts. We did kind of get, you could call it an outline as far as a script, but kind of how to problem solve, and definitely have provided her with resources on how to work with children and behavior difficulties and problem solving. And yeah, so we are definitely using some evidence-based practices. Mm-hmm.
Is there usually somebody in the room daily?
So every
Not
day.
the same kids daily, but every day
yes,
is there?
Yes, it is being used a lot. And it's, we feel like kids are learning things. Kids are feeling, when you compare, our alternative is punishment strategy. And so, with this strategy teaches. And kids leave feeling better than when they came. And so they're going back to class calmer, hopefully ready to learn and getting their brains in that mode versus punishment and feeling bad and in more of that fight or flight, mode. So,
So my question is, I've walked by the room and there's tons of fun things in there. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about a student who's really good and goes, that looks fun. Do they ever get to go in there? Do they ever get to do any of those things?
So we did it. So when we first implemented it, every single classroom received instruction, and so every child has been in that room and and received instruction on how to use all of the tools. We call them sensory tools, calming tools. Have you used your tools today? Yep, some of them are fun, but they all have a purpose. And so when you're angry and your muscles are tight, what can you do to help, relax them? When your heart is beating fast, what tool can you use to calm your body down? Let's try some deep breathing. Let's try using our stress balls. And so they get more familiar, and then hopefully with practice, it just becomes a natural go-to.
So there's coping mechanisms being taught in there of how to be able to get yourself out of anxiety or conflict or...
Yep, absolutely. Manage emotions, getting along with other people. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we found it to be very proactive, productive, healthy. We found it to be very healthy for our kids. Mm-hmm.
The stop and think room at the elementary has been a game changer. Absolutely. And so much so that we're looking at doing the exact same thing in the intermediate school, middle school, and the high school. It's a process, though. And yes, I would like to go in that fun room with that fun stuff. There is a certain 6-year-old that lives in my house that had that sentiment, and his mom and dad corrected him as to what that was all about. So I know exactly.
Maybe that encourages, they want to go back in there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know. We want them to be in their classrooms. However,
yes. So did I.
Yeah, if it needs to be a positive place too, because it needs to be a place where they, learning takes best when your brain is calm, when you can focus. So when you feel safe. And we want that to be a safe room and a safe place. So when kids feel like, I need to get out of here, I need to run away, I need to go home, it's like, you know what, we've got a place for you to go, and you're okay. And we're going to take care of you, and we're going to help build skills, and we're going to get you back into your classroom, back with your friends, back to learning.
How long do you think is the average length of stay in the room for a child when they come?
So first time, we typically say not long, 15, 20 minutes. The first 5 minutes is an automatic, go in the room, take 5 minutes. We're not going to talk to you. Take 5 minutes, use your tools, relax, breathe. After that 5 minutes, we kind of expect, we'll check in, are you ready to talk? Are you ready to talk about this? And most of the time they are. And if they're not, we say, you know what, looks like you could take another 5. That's okay. So then they take another 5. And then the processing might take 10 minutes. If they need, more of a brain break or an alerting break, some exercise after that for 5 minutes, we do at times do that. But then we want to get them back to class. So, so not long. If it happens again, we might take a little bit longer. But usually we try to make it a quick turnaround, and it's a break.
Well, I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions, but how do you handle if you have, there's multiple grades that are using this, how do you handle if you have kids coming at the same time? Obviously there's just not one child out of 350 that are having a meltdown at the same time.
Correct.
So how do
it
you
happens.
handle that?
Yes, it happens. So we do have, a plan A, plan B, and we have other staff, including myself. And so if there becomes, 2, 3, 4 kids in there, someone else will be called to come and assist and come and help, which is totally fine. We take it day by day. We learn from, each day too, what works, what maybe didn't work. There are times when, behaviors can get quite big. And so if there's a student in there who needs the whole space, that happens. And then our para will take maybe a child who was in there who is already near calm, and they'll just go to my office and we'll switch places, or, we kind of have a working plan for when those things happen.
Okay.
Yeah, it just kind of works out. And,
Good.
so,
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Intermediate school, you're up.
Give me the first one. So a lot of the stuff we do a lot of similar things that they do at Lean as well. We do Second Step Universal. Starting this year, we did kind of a pilot year last year with Second Step. So this year we're having classroom teachers and myself in guidance do the Second Step lesson. So just like at Lean, we're doing it all at the same time. So each kid is getting the same lesson throughout the week. So Second Step, they learned a lot about empathy, perspective taking, which leads to being able to see someone else's perspective has been really helpful for some of these kids, because sometimes they do things that they don't think about, and then this helps them to think about how their behavior affects others. So that's a big part of the second step at the beginning. Kind of go to the next one. The next unit we're just starting this one just in November now, about emotional management, using to talk about feelings and how you're going to deal with them. So the big thing is stop, talk about your feelings, and come up with using one of the tools that you are taught to use as well. The next one, a lot of it's similar, so we'll kind of speed through some of this. The last unit in second step is about problem solving. So using a methodical way to learn to solve problems. So that second step teaches that as well. So second step is just our tier 1 on PBIS. It's every student gets it all. 300 kids are getting the same second step, scope and sequence throughout the whole year. So it's just our tier 1 intervention for all of those guys. You can go to the next one. Just like our whole district-wide, we're all doing PBIS, and that's just a framework for how we deliver intervention. So there's universal. So 80% of the kids are going to get the universal. They're going to understand. It's going to work for them. 20% of the kids are going to fall in our tier 2, and they're going to need some extra layers of support. And then we always have our high flyers that are going to need a lot more than that. But in a general rule, 80% of the kids will get the second step and will take it and understand it and be able to use it. And then some kids will need more support. Just like at Lean, we do check-in, check-out. This is our second year of check-in, check-out, and I think the kids really like it. They get another adult they can connect with, give more feedback from more adults during the day. It really helps them to know what they're doing well. It provides those opportunities for reteaches, so they're getting the same information again and again, getting offer support throughout the day. So the students would really like that. And I think the teachers can see that it really does change behavior. Having a visual to say how you're doing all day, and be able to talk about it throughout the day really does change behavior and motivates kids to really learn or practice what they're learning. The next one. Yeah, we started this is our third week of Stop and Think, or second week? This is our third whole week of Stop and Think, so we just started that. So just like at Lean, we have it staffed with a paraeducator who's been with the district, 20 years? Has Terry been there 20 years? So she knows how to do. We use it more as a break room, so when the kid needs to use tools we teach all the kids how to use the tools, and if they need to do that, it's a proactive thing before it gets to where it's a behavior problem. So a teacher could go to a student, I see you're really struggling right now, maybe you could use a break in the Stop and Think room. So we do it a little bit differently, so we do it ahead of time, and then it's usually like a 5-10 minute break, and if they need to use it more than once a day, like they said, it could take longer if they're really dysregulated, but we have some students spending a little more time in there, but usually for the first time it's just a 5-10 minute. They set a timer, use the tool, use the coping mechanism they've learned, and then go back to class. So either they have scheduled, we have students that have scheduled breaks, and we have students that can do them as needed as well. So we don't do a lot of restorative practice in there. It's more of just kind of like a regulation piece where they get a chance to either they get the wiggles out, or they can kind of, if there's too much going around them, they can have a quiet place where they can just kind of sit and kind of have that sensory be low and have them refocus their energy on just what they need in the moment. They're a little older than their level, they can kind of regulate more on their own and practice more of these coping skills without so much help, because they can do them more on their own. And then if there's another layer of intervention, just more of the tier 2 kids, we also do counseling groups as well, zones regulation. I've done growth mindset groups, friendship groups, resilient groups, and also more problem-solving groups. So we do those on a as-needed basis by identified kids by teachers or myself or by our data in our data system as well. And then peer mediation. So we have 8 peer mediators in our building. They all attended a whole day training on peer mediation. I think you had the presentation last year on those kids, but we've been using a little bit more this year. So I've been older kids have been kind of assigned to kids that are struggling at recess, and they would check in more on a weekly basis. So I've tried that a little bit more this year, more of an ongoing support rather than just kind of a one peer mediation done. So I've actually paired some kids up with some kids that are struggling, and that's been successful. So they know how to come up with ideas together. So peer mediation is just basically going to be talking instead of yelling and fighting. So I think that's been really successful so far this year. And the leadership kids, they do a lot of projects. We did an anti-bullying video for Red Ribbon Week. We did a skit on doing the Red Ribbon Pledge, Say No to Drugs. We did a skit at all lunches. So So all kids got both of those things. They saw the video and participated in the skit. And leadership kids, I've done similar to like the peer meters. I paired like 2 students up. Say a kid's really struggling at recess with, being safe and responsible and respectful. I paired a student up with a couple 5th graders, like a 3rd grade student with the 5th graders, and they can go out there and just help them learn how to play. So we've done, leadership kids have done that. Example of something they've done. What else do we have on there? Go to the next
That's
one.
your last one.
Is that my last one? Okay. Any questions about any of those items?
What are zones of regulation?
Zones of regulation are like there's 4 zones to the zones. It's yellow, blue, yellow, and red. So they're taught what each zone you're in. And the idea, we want them in the green zone, which is ready to learn. The blue zone is where you're sad and low energy. Yellow zone is when you're starting to lose control, and the red zone is when you've flipped your lid and aren't able to regulate. So we taught this to all of our kids, and they get it at Lean too, all grades. So we don't have to teach as heavily here because they've got a background. So if I just mention it, they go, oh yeah, I remember that from Lean, and then we just talk about tools. So that's how we introduced our stop and think room, that there's these tools we use. What do we do when we're in the red zone? When we're flipped our lid, what tools can we use to get back so we're ready to learn and focus in the class? So in the yellow zone, or if some days you come in, you're just really sad. Say something bad happened the night before, and you're coming to school and you need more time. You're not ready to go in the classroom yet. You've gotten in a fight with your mom in the car on the way to school, and you come to school crying. So the stop and think room we use as for those kind of things too. So if you just can't make it to class and just need the time to just compose yourself and use some of the tools in there, we have like some adult coloring books, and we have some puzzles and just kind of things that you can just do to get your mind ready to learn to get back to that green zone. So they all learn how to move from zone to zone. So.
So we did listen to a presentation by the peer mediators. I think it was either last month or the month before, but they were older kids. You don't train them to be peer mediators in the intermediate school, do you?
Yeah, we do.
Really
yeah.
that young?
We send the same.
That's great.
We go to the same training. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the middle school does it just in house. Right?
Yeah, we have a lot of the kids have already been through. Some of them
probably the same,
trainings, and so then we after they go through the training, I think with Mike McGowan, correct, up at CISA, then we kind of take a lot of those kids, and we get new additional kids, and then we do an in-house training that Kate Weisenbeck has put on.
Yeah, so we go to the one at CISA 11, so 8 kids tend all day.
That's great.
They learn how to sit down and in groups of 4 and learn how to problem solve, basically. Yeah.
And they're trained on the confidentiality. They're not supposed to share what they talked about, and they take it very serious. And the kids then will sign a contract that if they agree to work through their problem, the mediators are trained on how to help them sign that contract and then hold them to it.
Yeah, I recall that from the presentation. 5th grade seems so young to have that type
you
of...
had a couple here, didn't you?
Was that last year? Last year we presented to the board, and they came and did a kind of a mock presentation on how they do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can do it. They can. And they really, they were won by determination, so they want to, they're really excited about it, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, middle school.
Okay, so everyone's talking about second step. Here's the scope and sequence of all the lessons that the kids get by grade. So second step is,
Thank you.
is aligned to the DPI social and emotional standards and also to the CASEL social and emotional competencies. So when we say it's research-based, like it's really specific about what types of skills kids need to have at certain ages. And then they progress from there and build on each other. So really, second step is the best of the best. So I wanted you guys to have that so you could see. I'm Julie Montgomery-Reese. I'm the Student Success Coordinator at the middle and the high school. And Kate Weisenbeck is the school counselor at the middle school. So she's largely responsible for organizing and implementing and working with all the staff along with Tom. I'm more of your Tier 2 counselor. So Tom may jump in and correct me if I get some things wrong tonight. But second step is something that she and the 6th grade team kind of piloted last year. 6th grade team got really into it. And then basically 7th and 8th grade teams, my understanding is they wanted to do it too. So it's really, teachers are taking the lead with it. They're rolling it out once a week in their study hall groups, which we're now calling like a Warrior Way time, where kind of more that advisory feel. So once a week, getting that second step.
Bullyproofing Your School is a curriculum that the Amery Middle School has been doing for about 15 years. It's my understanding they were trained by educators coming up from Madison. And the focus of that is really three-pronged. So it's changing your climate and making a positive climate, giving kids the skills and strategies to avoid victimization, and then an emphasis on developing kind of a caring majority. So it's not always about does an adult know and did the adult respond in the right way, but more or less like, do you have all the kids aware of, and do they all care about how people are being treated, and do they speak up when something's happening that needs to be stopped? So really trying to train kids to empower them to be upstanders. This is basically the teachers have taken this and created lessons and kind of reworked them every year and kind of implemented it at that grade level. So they're still doing that this year along with the second step, and it's my understanding this summer they're going to relook at it, redo it based on some anti-violence research and curriculum using funds from the mental health grant. So this is kind of always being reworked and upgraded. All kids, again. Same with PBIS. You kind of heard about Lean and intermediate school. Middle school is a really strong PBIS program. And just a really strong system of responses. And I think what you know about middle schoolers is it's that time where they're starting to test, right? They're starting to try to kind of figure out who they are in the world, but also kind of, what the adult's going to do when they do this, and maybe they're even trying on, like, what does it look like to kind of like try to make my friends laugh, even if that's inappropriate or something I'm going to get in trouble for. So I think what's cool about the middle school is the system is really consistent, and kids get a consistent response for as much as possible. When they do kind of test out those behaviors, you have caring adults saying, okay, is that really school appropriate? Is that really who you are, who you want to be in the world? So we kind of have that. We do teach kids expectations clearly. We reinforce them through positive praise and rewards. We have these Warrior Way. You guys should come sometime because Tom is like, and the staff, it's a master class in a middle school assembly. Those happen on the quarter. So, yeah. There is the anonymous bullying reporting tool. It's online. It's my understanding it goes directly to Kate Weisenbeck's email, and so then she responds the next day to any child that is reporting bullying. She teaches kids how to use it at the beginning of the school year. In 8th grade in the fall, there's an anti-bullying leadership day. They spend time out at WAPO. In leading up, it's very much student-led, and students kind of pick the themes that they're going to focus on. And then in the afternoon lead, in the past it's been a painting with Paul Oman. I don't know who the artist was this year, but...
Is Oman.
Oh.
Kelsey Oman.
Yep. And so, and that is like an open mic where kids kind of get vulnerable and talk about their own experiences and kind of come together as a class and like, who do we want to be? How do we want to define ourselves? And a lot of that is around like kindness, anti-bullying, and doing the right thing. The SAM presentation is a collaboration with the county. The county comes in, does a 40 to 60 minute presentation, basically going over the legalities of what it means to sext or cyberbullying, just that there is like legal implications for that. So really educating kids around that. There's a big Holocaust presentation that's coming up. I think Tom's talked to you about it. The Doctor Day, right? No, there's two different things. Sorry.
The Holocaust.
Doctor Day's coming.
Doctor Day's coming. Holocaust is in January.
Holocaust is in January.
And that's Tim Scott. He's an attorney out of Roberts, and he does a really nice job talking about the Holocaust to the kids, and we really want to set up that because it's right in our 8th grade curriculum. But then he also talks about what creates the Holocaust, the spirit of the Holocaust, and that would be categorizing people to be lesser than you, or demonizing specific groups of people, and the dangers that come from that. And he certainly gets kids to buy into that concept and idea, but then slowly brings it down to how about Wisconsin, and how about in Amery, how about in your school? Which kid do you put below you as a nerd or a geek or goth or whatever categorizes they put themselves into. And then he challenges each kid, is there part of it in you? And what do you think? And how can you prevent that? And how can you become unified as a group? It's a pretty powerful presentation.
Yeah, and teachers follow up in the classroom too. Mm-hmm. We have check-in, check-out. It's great. It's pretty organized at the middle school. I would say the biggest benefit of this is is, yes, kids looking at their behavior throughout the day, but it's that relationship that bookends the beginning and the end of the day, where they're connected in a positive way to an adult. We have the peer mediators. You guys know about that. We also have peer tutoring, and again, this is more to support those academic pieces, but it ends up being social-emotional because it ends up being older kids or kids that don't have a hard time with school helping kids that maybe are struggling. And so there's kids can sign up for it. They just write a slip in the office, and then they can get someone to support them. We have small groups. I have an anger management one going right now. I have a girls group going. I've done transition to high school. I've done resiliency. I've done anxiety. So it just really depends on the kids and what we need. There's a leadership team. And actually, I don't know a ton about this, Tom. Do you want to speak about the leadership team?
Yeah, in addition to like student council, we started working on leadership teams, and the purpose was to give the kids a lot of voice on where and what we're doing, especially with our assemblies. And we try to get the kids speaking and leading those as much as we possibly can. And in addition, we typically have students nominated by staff. Some of them are nominated because we think they're really good leaders. Some of them are nominated because we think they're fence riders that if you give them a little bit of responsibility, they will help. Instead, they might go the opposite direction. And then we also have kids that sign up and volunteer and like to join. If they want to come in, they can submit their name and to be part of it. And then we also put them through a training on what it's like to be a leader in that. So kind of just another way to give kids voice and choice and ownership. And it's kind of like when I was working on the community club, when we'd set up the Halloween display, and I'd always say, I'm going to bring the kids down to set it up. And why did you pick these kids? Because if I didn't, they'd tear it down, you know. So, so that kind of thing. A lot of leadership kids help you build a lot of things. If the kids do it and lead it, then they really buy into it. So.
We also have the SAGE groups. So those are connected to PBIS. We have individual counseling. So I do want to say, I think this is my last slide, right? Mm-hmm. I just want to say that, like, I think that we check the boxes. I think there's incredible programming going on in Amery as far as in the school, and I think that something that I've noticed in being here, I've been here a year and a couple months, but there's so many caring adults, and we're always having conversations when we're seeing kids flag or behaving or presenting in some kind of way that doesn't sit right with us, because we do have high standards for our kids, not just academically, but as people. And so I just want to share that. Like, we do have a lot of really great programming, but we also have a lot of great staff. And I can't tell you how much, just in my role, how much I value the collaboration of teachers. I've never been in a district where you have teachers coming up to you being like, this kid is really concerning me. And in both the buildings I work in, I have no doubt it's happening in the other buildings too. So I just want to say that we take a lot of pride in, just as you do, in our children and how they behave and how they are in the world. So thank you all.
Julie, I got a question. Sure. Your small groups that you were talking about,
yeah.
How do those fit in with the schedule? How often do you meet in those groups? And can you share a little bit about how that works during the school day for the kids?
Yeah, so in the middle school, I tend to either run my groups during lunch because I don't want them to miss academic time, or during one of the study halls. Last year I did run some groups during the school day, but I rotated, so like this week we're doing it in period 2, next week we're doing it in period 3, and just so if you have an 8-week group, you don't miss the same class more than once. It takes a lot of coordinating, but it's worth it. At the high school, I use the warrior time at the end of the day, or the lunchtime. Yeah, so I try to minimize academic misinstruction, but sometimes it's worth it. It's worth taking kids out to help them get the skills they need. But I always communicate with parents, phone call, letter home, so that's helpful too, having their buy-in and having their awareness of what's happening.
And do those students sign up for those groups, or are they like chosen or recommended by staff?
Yep, so at the beginning of the year, at least for 6-12, we've been using a tool that Jeff's going to talk a little bit about called the Welcome Survey. Essentially, that's a needs assessment where kids check off, I want help with this, I want help with that. And we look at academic, we look at career and post-secondary, and then we look at social and emotional domains. So they have a lot of opportunity to say, I want help with this. So from that, we might say, yeah, like this kid's asking for help with anger management. So I might, and then we might say, yeah, and he needs it. So that's how, like through data, but also through like what we're seeing. Some kids maybe aren't ready to say, I need help with that, but they definitely need help with that. So, it's a mix of like teacher recommendation, of data, of kids saying, I want help. Okay.
And parents.
And parents. And you try to make group fun and engaging so that kids want to be there. I mean, I think the SAGE groups are honestly the hardest in my experience to hook kids into because they know they're there basically for behavior, and it's so skill-based. Like, you have to be very creative as a facilitator to, like, get them to be like, okay, this sounds fun. Like, we're going to talk about how to seek appropriate attention. You have to, like, rename that and, like, so jazz it up. Yeah. But again, if the kid doesn't want to be there, it's not going to work. So what's the point? So you kind of have to, like, make it work for them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
And the high school.
I'll just start by saying I'm definitely speaking on behalf of the experts in pupil services, Karen Ganji, Yvonne Kurtzels, and Julie and I work closely together. So I would say at the high school, when it comes to character ed, we really start the year by looking at our data. Julie referenced our welcome survey, which is our needs survey, and really this year it said our students were expressing that they needed help with anxiety and stress. So what Julie partnered with Amery Behavioral Health to facilitate stress management groups. She's bringing in a yoga instructor, not for herself, but for her kids. And then there's also some mindfulness sessions. So that was all created off of that needs survey. And then the youth risk behavior survey, we've alluded to that a little bit. You heard 58% of our students admitted to trying vaping. I would say that number is increased by, I would say, 20%, if I was being honest with you. Significant anxiety, 49% of our students on that survey admitted that they have significant anxiety. And then the suicide, as counselors, administration, we always look at those numbers. 13% of our students said they had contemplated suicide. So we get this data, and then I'm going to bring up some different things that we're doing in our character ed area that are targeted with that. One of the first things I'll talk about is the health class. Mr. Rose teaches the health class. All freshmen take that class. It is required for graduation. Goes over kind of the whole gamut when you look at mental health, character ed, those type of things. Moving on, the employability skills class. This was referenced earlier tonight. Mr. Wellman teaches this class. They detailed, ladies and gentlemen, 40 cars this year. So it is like totally legit. If you want your car detailed for a really low price, they do accept tips. I'm advocating for them, but they just finished that 40 cars. Now they're going to cook and freeze meals for folks in the community. They have a county health inspector coming in, I believe December 5th, but the kids will earn 2 certificates. And then they'll build some lamps this spring, which is unique, and then they'll be back to detailing cars. Our cars will be dirty by this spring. So, but yeah, just an awesome program. And for these kids, that's their next step, right? They're maybe not post-secondary bound, so we got to work on those employability skills. It's one thing to teach it, but then to act on it in the classroom is great. I think Mr. Wellman even likes it himself. Teen Issues is a class that Mr. Rose teaches. It's an elective class. I would say we target kids to enroll in this class. It's more of our Tier 2 kids that enroll in there. And again, Mr. Rose, if you know Mr. Rose, he's as even keel as they come, and has that rapport with those kids, holds them accountable, but yet they respect him. So
a lot of these kids, when we talk to them about the class, they say, yeah, I would really like to take that class. So we do have the conversation with them and say, we think this would be a beneficial class, and most of the time they're excited to get in there.
And it's good for them to know that they're not alone. Like, There's other kids that are dealing with these issues. It's almost like kind of a small group, group counseling type class. They learn from each other. QPR, question, persuade, refer. It's a tool that our kids are educated on and related to suicide if they run into a peer. Obviously a very scary situation. Tonight we experienced a difficult situation. You want to be prepared in those type of situations. So again, it stands for question, persuade, and refer. All our students are trained in that. And then there's also refresher options. Cross-age peer mentoring. You've heard about mentoring throughout the district. Opportunity for high school kids to develop leadership and mentor our younger warriors. The sexual assault awareness presentation, our seniors participate in that on one of our testing days. Is that ACT, Josh?
Correct.
So try to have that quiet testing environment for our seniors there in the auditorium participating in the sexual assault awareness. Our Warrior Check screener, I would say this is a mental health screener for our students. We're not a mental health facility, but I think we can help with identifying which kids are struggling. It's great to have data when we're calling parents, not just we think this, but this is how your child scored. We're not the experts by any means, but sometimes there's some red flags on those screeners. And it is tough because when you make that phone call, it's not 100% of the time that there are resources available for those families or they take action on recommendations. So that is very difficult on our end, but the least we can do is provide them the information and possible resources. Social communication, skills behavior class. This is more for our special education population. By the time you get to the high school, you have a wide array of skill sets when it comes to social communication. So this is a class that is taught in our SPED department, many different topics, but again, trying to increase those basic skills that our kids are going to need to be successful in the real world. And then you look at our departments throughout the high school, and they try to incorporate real life mental health, character ed like topics. Been working with a student who is doing a research paper right now, and it's been very emotional for that student, something that they had experienced many years ago, but with this research paper, I feel like they're actually processing it right now at a different point in their life. So that's just one example, but a lot of opportunities in the English department. In the science department, there's mental health lessons taught in 9th and 10th grade. You can look at the brain development. When we talk about trauma-sensitive schools, like how the brain develops after you've experienced trauma, I think it's important for our kids to see visuals on what that looks like. So there's opportunities there. Essentially, kids that are exposed to trauma, they struggle with processing, and it's fight or flight when they get in these situations. So again, good for our kids to understand why one of their peers might act a different way than they do. Really, our brains might be in different places. And then social studies, the psychology, obviously a lot of opportunity there for kids to learn about the psyche of how we think and what we do. Warrior time lessons, it's like warrior times at the end of the day. It's like that advisory time. We try to provide some individualized lessons during that time. This year we've had conversations regarding attendance, which is a push in the district, and also the vaping. Julie did a great job, and the council did a great job with coordinating that, releasing that information to our Warrior Time teachers, and then having that conversation in a small group-like setting. There's 16 kids in there, but I think the conversation is more likely to happen there than it is in like an auditorium when there's 480 kids there. It's also time for a student to have an experience with an adult over 4 years, and for that teacher to see that kid day in and day out for 4 years. I think there's something to be said about that relationship too. And then Julie alluded to this about the staff, but we talk about our kids a lot, but our staff are trained in character ed, mental health. We spend a lot of time with the trauma-sensitive schools. And our staff are not saying, what is wrong with that kid? They're saying, what can we do to help that kid? And Julie's kind of the attorney for a lot of these kids. She's got to send emails out every day like, hey, Mr. Fern, we got to have a conversation. And my attitude isn't like, oh, this kid again. It's more like, all right, we're going to try to figure out, what we can do to get this kid on the right track. And that's tough when you're a classroom teacher and you got 25 kids in there and you're trying to move the needle with your curriculum. So, any questions for the high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about the Warrior check screener, and then you say that if there's red flags, that you notify parents, and then you say you provide them with resources and it's their choice to follow up with the resources or not. What happens then? What do we do then? Do these kids go on a list? Do they get tracked? Do they get followed up with? Does the family get followed up with? Do they get, if the family can't get them the help that they need due to whatever reason, financial, insurance, lack of resources in this county and anywhere in northwestern Wisconsin, do we put them into some counseling with one of our guidance counselors or?
I'll tell you that most of the time there's not a lot of surprises, and these kids are typically getting, they're exposed to resources that we have available to us. Again, Julie's at Tier 2. Usually it's our Tier 2 population. We do provide resources to the families. Are there situations where counselors know, like, hey, they have a financial strain, there's a grant available, can we help them out? Yes, we try to do that. But I think it's very personalized to the family. It's always a difficult conversation calling a parent and saying, hey, this is what we're seeing, we think they need some help. From my experience as a counselor, it doesn't stop there on my end. I'm going to continue to check in with that student. I might call in and check in with the family and say, hey, just calling to see if you guys need any help where we're at with getting Johnny set up with some outside counseling. But it is a very, I'll say, a frustrating process because we can't make the phone call for that student. I will say something the district may or may not want to look into is a previous district we had family therapy associates came in to our school to provide mental health counseling. It took out the barrier of transportation for our families. Might be something that we would want to look into. We just simply provided the space, confidential setting. There was some communication between the mental health counselor and the
I think we've actually discussed that as a district, and so I think one of the roadblocks that we came up with was how do we, given that space, how do we deem who gets that time? So if it's a hardship for this person to travel, then what deems it that it's not a hardship for this person? So if there was, if you have anything that showed what that district did, how they narrowed that, that the board could look at so that we could talk about things like that, that would be helpful for us to start getting these kids some help that's not being getting out there. We would like to see that. I think,
and any kid in that program could have access to that counselor, but previously we heard a lot of these parents saying, oh, we can't do it. We work from 7 to 5 and we can't get our kids there. So it did help that population, but there was any student. You didn't have to have an obstacle. You could have access to that counselor. As a school counselor, we just simply helped out with setting up those appointments and making sure that they had a space. And some communication took place in between sessions if there was a signed release. But, I mean, it wasn't that challenging. The challenging part was just the space.
And so funds for that was then covered by individuals?
So, we partnered with the community. We'd raise about $3,000 a year through a fundraiser. And if students weren't able to cover the cost, their insurance, then we would cover that cost. We would ask them to look into their insurance first.
Okay, great.
So with that Warrior survey, is that something that you're only having your Tier 2 kids take, or is that across the board?
It's voluntary across the board as far as I know. Yeah.
Volunteer across the board. Is it like at a certain time, like, hey, here's a survey if you want to take it, or just anytime they're here, it's online, or?
We give them some information about it, and we do it at the beginning of the year. Give them a little heads up that it's coming.
And then it goes to their email, and they can decide if they want to take it or not.
They've got a link that goes to it, yep.
And what kind of participation do you get out of it?
I would say we're up over 70%.
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty typical in high schools, 70 to 75%. And parents do have the right to sign their kid out. And some kids just won't take it, and we don't force it. Again, we're just trying to help with the identification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Thanks, Mr. Fry.
Thank you.
The agenda states first reading of selected board policies, but we don't have any this.
We don't,
so
but
we're skipping on to that.
Well, a sneak preview.
Okay.
In December, you're going to see policies on technology and also on social media. I'm working with Clint and Tracy on that. There are a myriad of technology policies that overlap and also leave gaps, and in some cases are just out and out outdated. And then the social media policies, there was an explosion of social media policies in 2004. And some of them just are not really relevant anymore, and some just need to be updated. And then lastly, we got from the state, from Wisconsin Association of School Boards, they gave us a directive to adopt policy on police investigations in school environments, and they have set language for that. So you'll see that straight from WASB, and you can weigh in on that as a first reading in December.
Wow, it's just like Christmas.
Just like Christmas.
It's going to be great.
I know you can't wait. Nothing says Christmas like school policy.
Great.
Technology's changed since 2004?
It has.
Can't wait for that.
Okay, well, okay, so I guess we're on to action items now. The first one on the list is revision of lunch account policy.
Yes.
760.1.
Our policy, as presently written, has warning phone calls going out to parents at $6 in their lunch account. The problem with that is twofold. One, if you are on free and reduced lunch, which some of our students are, their balance is already going to be $0, so they're getting a phone call and they're wondering, why are we getting a phone call? We are on free and reduced lunch. We don't have money in there for a reason. And second, if you pack a lunch each day, which some of our students do, you're also getting a phone call. They don't have money in there because they don't need any money in there. They're bringing their own stuff from home. So we are suggesting to move that policy back to $0, and if you go below 0, you get a call.
And there's just no way to query those students out of that phone call.
No. And we increased our phone calls from 300 to 640 by that
What
one
kind
change.
of crummy program do we use anyway?
Well,
You have to.
so that's our suggestion, and it's up to you how you want to weigh in on that.
Well, I guess until the problem's fixed, we don't really have a choice.
Nope. I mean, I think it's probably fine that you don't get notified until 0. I mean, it's not like they're going to get cut off if it takes you. It always takes
We
a few
do
days
not.
for it to, for you to get
We
your
do
checkbook out
not
and
cut
get
kids off. We enter into all sorts of provisions before we ever get anywhere close to that plan.
Well, and then you send the check with your kid, and then it depends on whether or not they actually turn it in, because I find it in their backpack 5 days later. But
Is there a motion to approve the revised lunch account policy?
I'll make a motion, we approve the lunch count policy
Is there a
as
second?
presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the unpaid meal charges policy is updated. Now we are to the second reading of the packet of board policies that we reviewed last month.
Chelsea chimed in last month with some suggested additions, the first of which is on policy 452, student aid programs, just changing the word welfare to aid from government organizations or agencies. That just cleans it up. Anything you see in blue on the screen is a second reading change. The changes in red remained as is. If you scan down, Becky, I'm not sure if there's anything else here. There's not, other than added some other legal references to state statute and the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, and then updated it to November of 2019. The second, we changed from staff positions and evaluation to support staff, and made it clear that this is all referenced in the employee handbook, which we review every single spring, and we'll again this spring. And in addition, noted that copies of summary evaluations are kept in the employee's file here in the vault in the district office, and that's been the case for the longest time. So that's been changed.
Shouldn't the revised be today's date? instead of
November,
October?
correct. Good catch. The financial reports and statements, the only thing changed there is November 18. This is your second reading of that one. So on to the next one. News releases, there isn't anything, I don't believe, that we added on that one other than the changed date of November 18th. And then I think there's one last policy, and that's school-sponsored information. Nope, I think there's one more after that. If you scan down a little further, visitors to schools. This is the last one. If you scan down a little further, we added a section on state law in regards to sex offenders, which is exactly what the Raptor program is when you enter schools. This simply is the legal backing for what we're seeking to do and how we're seeking to do it. And lastly, student visitors to school. That addendum has been added in there as well in that last mini paragraph. And then there are some other legal references there. And then lastly, November 18th. So those are your second readings for the policies that you saw last month.
Make a motion that we approve the updated policies in our packet. Number 452, 548, 682, 821, 821.1, and 860.
Second.
I guess just before I ask if we're all in favor, I just want to make a comment. I don't think this changes anything, but under the legal reference sections, when I guess commented on just the number, it probably should say, for example, under student aid programs, legal reference, it should say with section 120.12 sub 11 of the Wisconsin statutes. Like, it should all, like, those are the statutes.
So match them.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
They're all
We
the
can-
statutes. They're not just, yeah.
We can certainly do that.
That's just what is listed on all the other policies.
Sure.
It just spells it all out for every number, I believe.
Since we haven't
So-
revisited it since 1995, let's do it right.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? All right, the second reading of the board policies are. Next is the school calendar.
Okay, some of your highlights in your school calendar, which you see up on the screen here. This is a draft version. You certainly can weigh in and however you see fit. The first item, going month by month, we have August in-service scheduled for the 25th, 26th, and 27th. That's teacher in-service. The first day of school contact with kids is September 1st. That's by state law. It has to be September 1st or after. That addressed the problem surely by circumstance. We had a lot of feedback that the first week of school being 5 days was a lot. So this September 1st is a Tuesday, so it is a 4-day week. And Labor Day is late this year, so that's also a 4-day week, second week. So 2 4-day weeks. In the month of October, you'll see that we have conferences scheduled there for the 12th, 15th, 16th, the 16th being an off day, and I'll refer back to that in a moment. Those are 2 late nights for staff where they're with parents from 4 to 8 and then from 1 to 8. That's a pretty emotionally taxing day. Thereby, the 16th is an off day as a result. We have the end of the term on the 5th of November with an in-service on the 6th. Thanksgiving, sort of comparable to the time we are right now, is scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We do have a lot of kids in the woods, so to speak, during that week. At the high school, it's not uncommon to have 150 kids out of the building. We still have school. Years ago, we used to not have school, but there is a drawback in not having school. You're going to have school in June then. So we have had Monday, Tuesday for a while, and we have that as such. We did have some conversation in December about December 23rd being off. Rather than that, we have kept it as a school day. Because again, if you have that day off, then you have to pick up another day somewhere else. And the place you're probably going to end up having to pick it up is in the month of June, which we didn't want to do, or to make the 16th of October a school day after 2 late nights for staff, which makes it a little hard. We had a conversation at our calendar committee, and that committee consisted of Aaron and Chelsea, myself. Tom was on that committee. Jess Smith here in the room was with us, and then Mike Bensley from the high school was also a member of that committee. We had a conversation about trying to match some of these off days with federal holidays, the first of which on the calendar is actually January 18th, which would be Martin Luther King Day. Somewhere between 30 to 50% of parents have off for those days. So we're trying to match those days off so they don't have to worry about daycare. And we were not able to do that on the 18th, but we were able to do that on February 15th. And the reason we were not able to do it on January 18th is the end of the term is on the 22nd. And to move that in-service date up from the 25th to the 18th would make it really hard for staff to turn around, because everybody's turning around all of what they're doing for the next semester or the next quarter on that next day, and that would be tough. So you got to get everything wrapped up from the first semester and get everything rolling for the second semester, and that's a huge issue for middle and high school. So in February, we had a lot of debate about what to do with that. So what we decided is let's split our conferences into 2 separate weeks and make sure that the 15th is a day that parents have kids at home if they're able to do that. We don't have school that day. That's an in-service day with conferences. So there's no school, and that's a federal holiday. And that might pick up a day of childcare for families because they might not be working either. So we're trying to look out for them. Rather than have 2 3-day weeks, which is what you would have if you move the 11th and 12th to the 18th and 19th, we now have 1 4-day week. We have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if someone wanted to do that for their mini trip, spring break, so to speak, they will discover if they go to any number of travel sites online that you will find significantly reduced airfare in February as opposed to March. I've already heard about that. There's a huge difference in those 2 time frames. So that's February. March, spring break, as it's scheduled every other year, is the 15th and the 19th. We always have to jockey around spring sports. There'll be sports starting, and there might be winter sports still competing, but you have to have it somewhere, and that just happens to be where it is. The other date we have to dance around there is ACT, and ACT is the 9th and the 23rd. We're on both sides of that week, the ACT and then the makeup's on the 23rd. April 2nd, folks have asked why we have off on April 2nd. That's Good Friday. We can't not have Good Friday off because it's a contractual issue. The 23rd of April, this is something new we've done this year that we haven't done in the past. We have that as a dashed triangle. It's not an in-service for sure. If we have a winter like we did last winter with a whole bunch of snow days, this day can be made into a snow day. We've built in 2 snow days. This could be a potential 3rd if we had to use it. If we get beyond 3, then we have to start getting more creative. But we made that change last year. We can just now do that now. We have it on the calendar as such, so we would make that change based on what happens with the weather. Graduation is the 23rd of May. That's the earliest we've had graduation, and here is the reason. The 30th is Memorial Day weekend, and June 6th is awfully late. The guidance from the DPI is simply have it as close to the end of the school year as you can. There are schools that graduate the prior weekend even to that graduate the 15th, 16th. So the 23rd is where we have it. I'm not sure that the seniors will be upset with the fact that they're finished on the 23rd and then they'll be first and then graduating on the 23rd. And I know the high school staff will also not be sad about this. So then June 4th is our last day. And remember, we have 2 days built in and a potential 3rd if we needed it. If we have to go beyond that, we'll have to start getting creative. And then the last item is June 14th is the start of summer school. So we got a gap there for our kids and our staff. Questions? One last item I'd like to share is this. The staff, all staff, saw at least 3 or 4 versions of this calendar. And I think they felt like that was a good thing, and they really gave some excellent suggestions. So it was very helpful to have sent that out to them.
It was hard with the late start date of Labor Day and then a full week of spring break. I know we always try to get out as early as possible, and I was concerned about the June 4th deadline, but it's just one of those years.
It is. It's a tough calendar. And spring break is an iffy one. Every time we've done a survey, the response is a third of folks want spring break, a third don't want spring break, and a third say I don't care, which doesn't really help you much. So we've done every other year for the longest time.
And I've had a lot of phone calls and complaints this year already that we're not having a spring break this year. So I mean,
you can share with them, we can get you a spring break, we just have to go further into June, but they might not want that.
Is there any other discussion, or is there a motion to accept the school calendar?
I'll make a motion we approve the school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Motion carries. And the last item is personnel.
Oh, we missed WASB delegates.
Appointment of the WASB delegate. And I know Aaron was the delegate last year, I was the year before, so I guess, you have to be in Milwaukee in order to be the delegate, so I know I plan to be there. Do you plan to be there? Anyone else interested?
I will not be there.
I was actually reading about the virtual attendance at the convention.
Really?
Yeah, they're in the magazine. They were offering.
I don't think you'd be a delegate virtually.
No, you can't. But I'm like, I was
Well, there
going
you go.
through the sessions and
Okay.
saying maybe that's an opportunity
Yeah.
for all of us. I don't know what it cost. They didn't say what it cost, but it'd be interesting to find out. And then step in on certain sessions if it's available.
That would be nice.
We need an
because I can't leave because of the farm. But
We need an alternate as well, so we'll need 2 of you.
All right.
I'm just saying.
It's up to you.
I mean, I thought it was very interesting, so.
Okay. All right, well, you can be the designated delegate, and I'll be the alternate.
All right, sounds good.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Aaron is the appointed delegate, and I will be the alternative. All right, the last item now, personnel action. Okay, well, we reviewed this in closed session earlier, but we did not make a motion to approve, so is there a motion to approve the personnel action?
I'll approve
And
that.
just for the record, I will abstain from voting on this. So
All right.
Do you want to explain why?
I have a connection, maybe potentially, to one of the
one of the new
people. I know one of. Yeah.
Not that you knew she was even hired.
Yeah, I just found out today, but.
Yeah, she's not going to admit that.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the new employee athletic contracts and the resignations personnel as